This on computer.
Welcome to the Dynasty podcast. We're back for week 2. Excited to be here with you, buddy. What an interesting week. First week of football. I got to be honest. I got so excited. I had a few tequilas the night before with the wifey, knowing that it was going to be a long day on Sunday. Well, a few too many tequilas. Kind of celebrating Jimmy Buffett's life.
Okay. It was a celebration of life. That
Yeah,
makes a lot
Saturday
more sense.
was feeling it a little bit, and then woke up and I was like, I'm a little hungover, and took a picture of me making a vodka orange juice like 7:30, which is not abnormal when I'm feeling a little shaky in the morning on the weekends. Sometimes during the week if I'm got a lot of pressure going on. But very rare do I have a couple or three, and I wasn't really planning on drinking too much. I don't like to drink on Sundays when I'm watching football. And you know what? I had to. I was super excited. I made a nice casserole, and then I went outside and decided to hit the old joint that was left over from the night before. Next thing you know, I was in my car buying a thing of Budweiser, and I was fucked up and passed out by about 10:30, and I didn't wake up until about 3/4 of the way through the Bears game, and I did not see hardly any football. It was pretty sad. I really was down on myself for a couple days, and not going to happen again for a while. That I can assure you. But you never know when that shit's going to hit. And like my wife said, sometimes I just get so excited I don't know how to contain myself, and that's exactly what happened. So anyway, I'm back. We're
That's a
back
fair,
here.
that's a
Redo.
fair assessment of your wife knows you so well. It
Yeah,
is
she does.
the excitement that gets you. Well, that was quite a story to start off. I mean, I run a bar at Sharky's. For those who don't know, I own a sports bar. So some people thinks it's awesome because I get to watch lots of sports, but during Sunday when there's 8 games going at the same time and most of it's off of internet feed, it's kind of a fucking nightmare. So I actually didn't get to watch a lot either. I had to go back and watch way more
Same.
games than I normally would on like the 40-minute, summaries. Normally I just probably hit some highlights to see what I missed. I took a little more time to watch them because, like, man, I couldn't. It's tough. You juggle a lot, and it was opening day, so just a lot of moving parts. Everything
I'm
goes.
not sure how I feel about it. I don't have direct TV this year either, and I had it last year so I could get any game, and then I could have one TV with the red zone channel. And I really like that setup. Now you have to get YouTube TV, and I don't do that because I have direct TV streaming, and it's just we have multiple houses that I have to have cable in for when we go to our cabin in Tahoe and stuff. So it doesn't really make sense for me right now to do that. But I don't know how I'm going to get through just watching Red Zone. I need to have two TVs, and I have to have like the Bears game on. So I that was also kind of frustrating me on Sunday. So I need to get it dialed in. My wife is going to be gone this weekend, so I'll have the kids, and I can kind of just focus on that without getting any evil stares, and the kids can just run around in the backyard and figure it out. So anyway,
We have the opposite problem. I have too many games. I have 8 games on in a surrounding period, and
that can be too much.
it is a
I
little bit.
think
You know.
one game in the red zone channel is plenty for me. I don't think I need 4 games going on at the same
Well, there's
time.
no home teams in general, right? Like it's all tourists or locals. They all have different teams. There's no vibe that like everyone's for one team. So it's like people are screaming at everything for fantasy too. It's good though. Football's back and like you know, that was uh that was a real deal.
Well, boys in the Discord, let us know how you prefer to watch football on Sundays. We'll be interested in hearing that. Yeah, I think going back and just looking at some of the box scores and some of the storylines, though, I think it was a pretty, such a low scoring kind of shitty uh, output, at least on offense, I think, for fantasy purposes. Um,
Yeah.
the first ball, let's talk about the A-Rod reaction. I think that's, I got to watch that whole game and his first 4 plays. Wow, what a fucking story that is. I mean, if there was a NFL script writers, that's a hell of a coming out with the flag, all the build up, the ayahuasca stories, everything, and then just you knew it was over right away almost.
Here's what's gonna kind of I'm gonna take a nosedive right off of it. And I'm going to have no sympathy for this motherfucker
Mm-hmm.
because he's actually going to gain credibility in the Hall of Fame because they're just going to assume he would have won the Super Bowl. They're just going to assume he would have beat everyone's ass. They're going to assume because the Jets defense was so good that it's and fuck that narrative. And I'm not down with that. A-Rod, you're good. Probably going to the Hall of Fame anyways. Probably going to get put up above too many quarterbacks just based off of this. On a flip note, I do feel bad for Jets fans. I mean, A-Rod, I don't like A-Rod. I probably like him more since he's, I don't know, like he's different and doesn't give a fuck a little bit. And I like that. So, but I don't know. You're a Bears fan. I'm a Vikings fan. He's a fucking prick when he played against us. So it's like, and I
I
thought it
think
was
it's just karma, man. I think it's karma. I mean, in a lot of ways, he was an asshole the way he handled the Green Bay situation, whether they were right or wrong. Like he didn't have it all that bad. Like I think the way he acted, kind of like, I think he's built him up to be something that he isn't quite. He's not at the late level of Peyton Manning. He's not at the level of Tom Brady. He's certainly being bypassed by Patrick Mahomes at this point, if you ask me.
Mhm.
Like, but he's still in his brain thinks that he's one of the greatest of all time. I don't know why he gets that pass necessarily.
If
Like he's
anything,
one.
I took from week one is that Jordan Love looks pretty good in that system. So I don't know, like you know,
That's, but yeah, and then I mean, but I mean, here's the thing: when you're 40 years old, okay, like I just can't imagine someone wanting to come back and rehab and come back after all the work you put into it and all the excitement that happened to fucking pick
when you were
yourself up.
mulling retirement that much, right? Like he's going in the dark and looking for answers and doing, like you said, he's like maybe he just wanted to do fun shit and had an excuse for it, and so it's like, hey, that's what I'm doing. But like it sounded like he was legit, didn't know what he wanted to do, and then like I'll just take this opportunity to give a subtle, blatant dig on Green Bay Packers fans, but they're like all the Green Bay Packer bars had a if the Jets lose, everyone drinks for free at bars.
Hmm.
So they were they were wanting him to fail so much that they're willing to give up like free booze to celebrate that happening. And I thought that's all you need to know about Packers fans and their fucking bullshit. Oh, we're all nice hometown nice people. They're top three shit fans. They fucking hate everyone who leaves. They fucking piss on their own team when they're not as good. Fuck those guys.
How do you feel about that, Chicago Packers? If you're listening, not
Yeah,
sure how.
you know what? You know who doesn't do that? The fucking Chicago Bears, Minnesota Vikings, and the Detroit Lions. None of those guys act like that.
Well, that's a nice segue into the NFC North because there was quite a few surprises there. As a Bears fan, I thought the way that Fields played and being beat at home by Love and being out Watson. I mean, I just think that was a real surprise. I know it's early. Wasn't really excited about that. And then you have Detroit had to have one earlier in the week, and then Minnesota taking a shit on the road or against Tampa Bay. Was that in Minnesota? No, that was in Tampa Bay,
I
right?
was in Minnesota.
Oh my gosh. I mean,
Did you
that's
watch the game?
I did not see that game.
Okay, so I mean, taking a shit is the wrong take.
Well,
I
they lost to
I
Tampa
think
Bay.
you guys took a shit against Green Bay because like the play calling was atrocious. It was all behind the line and Dick and like there was no they didn't push it. They didn't design runs for Fields. I didn't understand what the fuck they were doing. I was just like,
Right.
like this doesn't look any different than last year. You got better players, and some guys look good, but like I don't know. And to be fair, I thought the Packers. I knew their defense was good. They definitely confirmed that, and Jordan Love looked competent. And for the Vikings, then we outgained them by 200 yards, and uh I mean, it was a low scoring game, and we just turned the ball over three times and then made a penalty on a field goal that turned into a touchdown. And so I don't know, like, I guess we were favored by 4, right? So it's like,
So
it's
that
not
is the definition of shitting the bed then, when you should win a game and you lose it because of dumb mistakes. Like to me, that's like shitting the bed,
okay,
right?
but like the difference, and I'm just gonna say like difference is we didn't play bad. We just made these really bad mistakes, and
Just
then there
bad
was,
turtle.
and but it's that being said, okay. So that being said, like we did play bad. I thought the play calling was not good for certain situations. I don't think anyone had urgency, but I also will tell you that I knew, and I've been saying that defense, like you can't write off Tampa Bay as long as they have Levante David and
Hmm.
Vita Vea and White in the middle, and it's just like they're still fast. The whole thing about their defense is they're so rangy and fast that they're hard to get up on, and their secondary is very, very good. Right, their defense is much better than ours in talent pool. So like it wasn't that surprising. The whole thing was like, well, Baker Mayfield has to look like a donkey, and
Right.
he didn't. So then it's like, okay, this matchup's closer, but to be fair, like I mean, Vegas obviously wouldn't let that line get out of hand. We're at home, we're favored by 4. Like, why weren't we favored by 10? Like, if we were
Mm.
supposed to fucking handle them, right? Like, I just think all the writing on the wall wasn't all this. I think people will see like that. I think Tampa's not a bottom feeding team.
No, I think people were underestimating them a little bit. Just the fact that, Baker might be a little bit more competent than people thought originally. They still have Evans, they still have Godwin, they're still healthy right now. Um,
Yeah, but we're fucked because like we needed that win. That's a home win against a
it's
should be
early.
inferior team, and we're gonna have to get our our dicks kicked in tomorrow by Philly. One, because they always
I'd be
kick our dicks
surprised.
in.
I don't know. I don't know how that game's going to go. I mean, there's a lot of people out for Philly. It's a short week. It could get ugly quick. It just could be an ugly game where they need it a little bit more. And who knows? Philly didn't exactly look great on Sunday. I mean, New England gave them uh, all they could handle.
It'll be in
So I
Philly. I'm sure 17,000 racial slurs will be screamed out in that audience. No
It'll be interesting.
no
It'll be
love.
interesting.
Talking about shitty fan bases. Sorry if anyone's a Philly fan, but you probably know you're all fucking assholes.
If
And
you
this is
if
by
you
an
had,
unbiased sports bar owner who has to deal with psychos all the time.
if you
Um,
had to pick the winner right now in the NFC North after Week 1, who would you pick?
Green Bay. I
Yeah,
still
I'm not ready. I'm not ready to believe in Detroit
I still
at all.
think Detroit misses the playoffs. I said I thought they were going to win and miss the playoffs. That'll be one of my greatest calls if I'm right.
We'll see. The
I
other
don't.
kind of thing I
Go
wanted to
ahead.
pivot. Sorry, I'm trying to keep us on our
Yeah,
little
yeah. Go,
segments
go.
here. Um, if we, the last pod we talked a little bit about. I personally thought that Pittsburgh was going to surprise San Francisco and was completely wrong about that.
Me too.
What a dominating performance by San Francisco on the road, just smacking the shit out of Pittsburgh. I mean, I think San Francisco, if Purdy is as good as he looked in Week 1 and they stay healthy, like they have to be one of 2 or 3 favorites to win it all this year. I mean, I know it's early. You can't overreact to Week 1, but fuck, man, like to do that to Pittsburgh, who's typically a pretty well coached team that looked pretty good in the preseason, that they were healthy. That was just a fucking shellacking. Uh, Surprised, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, we should have thought some of it coming when you give Shanahan that much time to prepare. And, I would say, Tomlin's really good at in-game adjustment and preparation to like compete. And his team, at least on the offensive end, didn't seem like have that energy. I thought the defense was fine. I think one thing that I was skeptical about was, with D'Amico Ryans going to Houston, like, is the next man up good enough to run the same style defense that Shanahan needs to dominate a game? That answer is flat out yes. And it, it was a little different than normal, but it was so close to how they're normally running it. They still have the same players, but scheme matters, man. I mean, I could go on for an entire pod about what I saw in schemes, and it's just like there's a lot of different stuff happening. The Eagles is a great example. Like the Eagles on offense well, I was just like, they really missed their offensive coordinator. And now on
Hmm.
defense, I wouldn't make any assumptions. They look really good. That front line is so good. And not to get off track, but I agree with the fact that we did learn a lot. Purdy, I didn't think could be good that good either. I didn't think he would be that healthy, and he looked great. And then you
He
have
was very in control, and
yeah, you have
it,
McCaffrey, and it's a really good offensive line. And Ayuk, I thought as good as he's took the step last year, I think he's going up another level this year because I think it's this is week one reaction, right? But I think to me he's better than Debo at this point because Debo seems to have certain things that he's very good at and that needs to be kind of run underneath. He's great at the backfield. But I saw Ayuk go in the whole bag. Like he ran a lot of routes. He beat guys bad and he got open. He got open clean, gave, like nothing against Purdy because I thought he made some really good throws, but like, I mean, they were just playing catch out there.
I think schematically they're going to pick and choose per week how they want to attack folks, and it's going to be an Ayuk game one week. It's going to be a McCaffrey game another week. It's going to be a Kittle game if he's healthy. It's going to be a Samuel game. You can't really defend all their kind of positionalist guys like that. And so maybe Ayuk's benefiting from not being the number one guy, being that number two guy that everybody has to worry about. McCaffrey and some of the other skill players like Debo and Kittle, and he's just kind of the one running free and clear until they have to double team him and stop him or shade over a safety or whatever it is. Like I think that's what the beauty of how Shanahan has set this up. And how they're utilizing all their guys differently is really making kind of a difference for Ayuk. But he just looked big and strong and fast out there too. I know that's a weird thing to say, but like it's weird when you see people get traded, especially, and you see him in a different uniform. But Ayuk from year over year just looks bigger, stronger, and faster. I mean, he just looked like a different guy, and I think
Yeah.
that's just
And
he's just elevated.
he was in the doghouse that first year. So it's like, you didn't even think,
He's
I think
always been physical.
yeah, I think I got some cheap Ayuk shares after his first year, because then Debo's there blowing it up, but I think he's caught up. I'm not saying Debo's a scrub by any means, but I'm saying I think last year, if you tried to compare the two, people would have laughed at you. I think you have to consider it now.
And I think Ayuk's a little bit less injury prone because of how he's utilized. But we're gonna see some different utilization throughout the year. I think with them, it'll just be nice to see them all be healthy at the same time for consistent amount. And if they can do that, I'd be very scared. The other team that obviously really impressed in a kind of a shocking
How
manner
about
was
them
the
Cowboys?
wow. I mean, fuck.
Woo!
I was down quite a bit from Sunday with my wagers, and I just said, you know what, I'm going to sprinkle a little bit more on this. I can't be wrong that many times in a row, and
You
ended
bet
up
the
betting.
Giants?
I bet the Giants, and it was over
Wow.
15 minutes. Um, I just figured at home, like rivalry game there. I didn't think that the Giants were, as exposable as they ended up being. I mean, it kind of got sloppy early,
Yes.
but still, like it just didn't look like a competent football team. And I think they were maybe trying to do more than they did last year when they kind of managed Daniel Jones and did play action. And it's like, okay, now we're going to try all these special things. Well, maybe that's not who they are as a football team. Maybe they have to manage the game and just win 12 to 10 or something like that. It's like, I don't know. It didn't look good. It didn't look great. But the Cowboys defense just looks like it's going to be a fucking nightmare for offenses this year.
Yeah, they're going to be a problem. They rotated super deep on that line. There's guys that got sacks that play like 20%, I don't know how consistent that's going to keep running, but everyone looked really good on that line. Even Lawrence looked like he had his steps back, like I don't know. It's going to be, yeah, I think it's going to be a problem. Their defense has a lot of good DBs and they're playing non-committal in what they're doing on their scheme. So I don't know, like there's a lot of conclusions that you just can't make because once you get the fuck up on somebody, there's a lot of stuff that you can just do from there. And I think that goes same for the defense, you know, like I I, I think the defense on the Giants, sorry, on the flip on the Giants, I think they showed some really good stuff. But obviously I don't know, you get ran out the building. It looks bad on both ends.
I think at the end of the day, we're not going to talk about every game. It was kind of a surprising week. There's some teams that won that I didn't think would win. But we can be back here next week and be saying the exact opposite, right? Like I think that's something that you should always remember. Year over year, I always tell myself this. It's like, don't overreact to week one. Something can change mightily quickly. There's going to be a lot of 1-1 teams and not 0-2 teams, or there's going to be some 0-2 teams that come back and get to 3-2. It's a crazy week where anybody can win. And it's hard to
Yeah,
win on the road too. It's
I
very
was
hard to win on the road. That's why I was
I
very impressed with the Cowboys and the Niners.
yeah, and I think if you have a betting Bible, gospel, something you write in that you want to make sure you never forget, please just write
Right.
this down right now. Always bet all the underdogs during week one.
Yeah.
We say this every year. Every year, it's like, oh, there's so much, like, oh, it's like, but everyone's coming out of training camp. Like, look at, we're not getting into all the games, but like, look at like what happened with Burrow. It's like he hadn't taken a freaking snap, and it's like, oh, I'm just gonna go up there and I'm gonna blow everyone out, and it's just like, dude, you
Right.
need to play. You
Yeah.
know, I kind of
Yep.
blame us a little bit. Like Kirk Cousins didn't take a damn snap in all preseason. I mean, we had joint practices, but it's like, what do you? Okay, knock the rust off. You're on two. Congratulations. Like, how's that going to look? You know, like I think so. I think, and as much and as smart as we all think we are, and all these talking heads, like nobody knows who's going to get punched in the mouth on week one and how the other team's going to react. And that Cowboys game is proof. Like, they got punched in the mouth, and then they were just like, "Oh shit, I don't think we're ready," and we're we're done.
Yeah, yep. I think you're right. And the other thing is defenses and teams that can run the football just like they do late in the season tend to pull away. That's also very true in the beginning of the seasons. Like if
Yeah.
you look at some of the matchups, the better defenses typically won in week one, just because it's hard to get that flow in offense. You're playing defense, all you're mostly doing is running around hitting people and trying to cause havoc, right? So
Yeah.
I think it'll balance out a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals had a good week this next week. I wouldn't be surprised if Tony had a good week this week. There's going to be a lot of bounce back kind of.
Yeah, if we wanted to make full assumptions, we would just stop playing the tight end position because nobody scored any points.
Yeah, right. Not very
Like,
much.
I mean, there's some interesting stuff, but
Sam Laporta's 5 catches for 40 yards
what
or
was he,
whatever.
top five? I mean, he probably was top five for the week for
Look
all
bad at
tight
you.
ends.
We don't want to get ahead of ourselves. One of the things that I did want to call out from our Discord chat this week kind of been a BC topic of conversation. And recently, after 1 week, which is kind of disappointing, is the whole tanking scenario.
Ooh, you want to
What
get
are
into that? All right, let's do it. I mean,
That's
fuck
what
it.
we're gonna do
Yeah, we
today.
gotta
Get it
address
out.
the elephant and the horse in the room.
Yep. Exactly. So it's obvious that there's teams that are tanking. Argo knows the rules. He plays by them. He quickly realized he's not going to compete this year, and I think most of us knew that, other than Penn, who thought he could spend all his first round draft capital to do stuff. I never believed that that's what Argo was going to do. He's done this in many other leagues, and he's executed it very quickly. There is no real rules against tanking as far as I understand it. Now you have some pretty strong opinions. I'll let you go first on and what we're doing now, and then what can be done, and then what you think is a solution for the future if there is any.
Okay, so in this league, once upon a time, there was a race to the bottom. Okay, this is what Mr. Warhorse wants us to discuss, and like there was active, like not setting lineups. There was active just forgetting about the league, and I'm like trying to lose, and it resulted in adding variance to the luck on getting through such a big league. So if you happen to go against five guys who are tanking, you might find yourself in the playoffs because while you're scoring 120 points, because it was that blatant. And so the evolution of the rules that we did, I mean, there was a lot of them to try and address this type of egregious tanking, right? Which was just like, I've quit and given up the entire time. I won't set a competitive lineup. And I feel like I'm playing for 3 years from now, so I'm not even going to try. And so one of them was the lottery, which was okay, but there's still a lottery for like top 6 picks, 8 picks, and
So
those
the
guys are
idea
kind of
behind
all the way down.
so just so we're on the same page. So previously, before the lottery, people were it was more regulated on who was actually setting lineups, people getting warned, um, people not, playing free agents instead of people that, they had on their bench that they could have started, that could have possibly scored points, those sort of things. In the past, prior to the lottery, were people actually warned about those things? And was it like,
100%.
and what were the
There was
consequences?
still in the rules that you had to set a lineup. I mean, you couldn't set a lineup. The commissioner had to go in and set one for you. And that probably happened more often maybe initially because teams didn't have a way to set a lineup. But there was like at one point some seriousness about it to where it's like, hey, if you can't like start a lineup, it's just like you're over the cap, you're just going to quit and then not set lineups. No, you have to trade. You have to do something to get yourself in position.
Right.
Uh, Wayne, you might
So
want to
I,
pay attention to that because I just saw you're over the cap, my son. But so there's a few things like thousands of proposals in
okay,
an
let's, so
exaggeration, but
I just want to, so previously things were done about it. Okay, there was either warnings placed or the commission would go in and set a lineup if someone had done it multiple weeks in a row, or what to create that competitiveness that's supposed to make every week someone has to go out and win a ball game. Because if people are tanking and they're in a division, then people are basically getting free wins, and that's not what the spirit of the league is about. So I understand that previously things were done about that. Then the lotto system was put into place, which basically eliminates someone's ability to say, well, I want to be the worst team so I can get the first pick. Because now you get a weighted ball system, and then based off of where you finish, like you may get the first pick, but you also may get the 10th pick, right?
correct.
So
But that was
that
that
was
was more to try and like get people from competing for the worst roster, right? Because now if you're like in theory, right, and we're talking about mid-season or whatever, like you're not going to start dropping players that'll score points so you can race from 6 to 1, right?
right.
And that was the whole thing. It's all possible points. So it's like you're trying to get rid of possible points, and then all of a sudden you're ditching players, and that's like what you're not supposed to do. And so a lot of this is like, unless the commission is going to be super on people saying like, hey, you can't do that or bringing it up, it's kind of just a big pain in the ass. But another rule that I don't know if it came before or after, it was right around, this is a lot of this was run by like Chris, and he's trying to do a good job about it. Too many people were pissed about the tanking. George is like, he's kind of like, he's never going to not complain. He's just going to take his levels of complaints all the way to the end. Like there's no scenario of non-tanking that Georgia will ever be satisfied with because it doesn't exist. But it has gotten better because a lot of the people in the league were concerned about this. I don't even remember if I was or not, but then it became a minimum spend. And this minimum spend actually, I think, applied to all the leagues in Paragon, which meant you had to come into the season and finish the auction, because that was the biggest problem, in my opinion, that was happening, was people were spending $300. So it's like you don't even have people. It's like I have 25 guys. I have, that's going straight to the bottom. So the best rule that was actually passed wasn't the auction. Sorry, the random
The
draw.
four.
Yeah, the best was that you had to be within a certain amount of cap space because, like I said, that the problem was like guys are like, okay, I'm not going to participate in the auction, so now you're missing $1,000 of the auction that should be. Guys are like not even thinking about picking up on the wire. They're just like maybe a guy here just trying to get a lineup of a bunch of
Yeah.
guys that'll never play.
So let me ask you another question then. In previous years before I joined, was there ever just a like the weak division, the second weak division, and the two strong divisions, and the best teams were in the top tiers, and then the worst teams were in the lower divisions? Because I think what happens sometimes is like when I first started, I took over the third picked franchise, right? I didn't get to have a reallocation draft. I took the worst franchise over that year and had to start fresh. I didn't have shit. I didn't have hardly any draft picks, and I had nothing. I had to scrap it. I knew I wasn't going to be competitive. I think I won 2 or 3 games and the next that year. Second year, made some moves and made some mistakes. Learned. I mean, I traded away 2, draft 2 picks for Gabe Davis, but that's a whole other story. But like I tried to compete every week, but there were times where it's like, okay, I've had 4 injuries. I only had 6 running backs to start the season. 2 of them are now free agents, and I have 2 injuries. Like I can't go and put 2 running backs in at this point, right? So then would it be stupid for me to go spend a bunch of money in free agency on a guy and just to put him in my lineup, or make a trade just to fill trade a safety for a running back just to put him in my lineup? That's, to me, that's not tanking if I choose not to do that. That's just like to be strategic about, hey, look this is where I'm at with my team. It's okay for me to trade older wide receivers for a younger wide receiver that's maybe underperforming because I need to prepare for 2 years down the road. To me, that's not tanking. What Argo is doing everything possible to require draft capital, correct, in order to completely rebuild his team and then have cheap assets that he's acquired as well.
I think he has enough assets to qualify as young assets, and he's trying to use other assets to leverage on picks.
Well, that's because you didn't look at his team recently. He sold away all of it. Mike Williams and who? Rasheed Rice. That's all he has left. And Jacoby Dean.
All right. I've seen a lot of fucking teams in this league, bro. And I've seen a lot of teams in week fucking 8 that look worse than Argos. And guess what happens in week 8? You don't get to trade anybody. You don't get to trade anybody. You get nothing for them. You know what
I'm not saying what
this entire fucking league.
I'm saying what he's doing is. I'm not saying what he's doing is wrong. But I don't think there should be rules on tanking, because I don't think you really can decide what a person should do with their franchise. But what he is doing is classified as the typical tank. He's trying to acquire all the draft picks he can in the lotto, and he's also got his own draft pick, correct? And he's not trying to score points at this point.
So fucking what?
So I'm saying that would be the definition of tanking. Now, is
not
he going to
really.
try?
I mean, the definition of tanking, we had it. We've seen what tanking is. Tanking is not even making an attempt, not even trying. That's like shutting it off from July.
Then how do you decide? Oh, well, okay, that's fine. If you're just saying I quit because it's week 8 and I don't have a chance to make the playoffs, and I'm not going to set my lineups.
So when should you get to trade your assets then? When the league says it's fucking cool? Like,
I don't think there's a right time and a place. That's why I think that the rules should be not be avoided.
I think there is a right time and place, and I think it's week 2 when you have a lot of desperate teams who just got a loss in a 32-team league who might want to give you more than they should.
I agree. We agree. I'm saying that
it's just dumb
there's no way that you can manage someone else's teams as long as it goes back to this. If they have a team and that's what they have on paper, they have to start the people that can possibly go into the lineup. And if they don't, I mean, what are you going to say? It's like there's no requirements for people to win.
We also have like this random, it's not the best all are together and the worst are all together. Because of this 32-team league, we make a random draw of like making sure that there's parity in divisions. So if we did that also on these same things, so you wouldn't have knowing all the bad teams are all in one division and all tanking at the same time, and one division that plays that division gets all those games. So to say that we haven't addressed this to try and make it as good as possible is it's just fucking, I'm tired of it, because like at the end of the game, all we're asking is to like not let managers manage the way we want to manage their team. If you want to manage it in a way that is giving me the middle finger from July, not from the draft, and it's like I'm not even going to log on for 3 months, I don't care, like that's not what we're trying to do. But like
that should be an indifference warning, and then they should be removed. Like that's, then someone else can manage their team.
I mean,
that's a different thing than taking.
Who is tanking in a way that should be reprimanded? Who in the league currently is so outside of line? Well, Dan was the first one. Like, first of all, why are we talking about with Argo? Dan acquired $700 worth of tight ends, couldn't even start a fucking starting lineup worth of shit. He just scored 92 points. Okay, I never in my life thought of calling Dan out for his strategy because he aggressively fulfilled the auction. The auction is really what we care about as far as considering tanking. Can you be competitive? Can you fill the legal amount that you have to do? And can you trade within that amount throughout the year to show that you're not just blasphemically like screwing everyone over? And when you want to trade your assets should be nobody's fucking business, because just because I want to sell all my assets in week 6 doesn't mean somebody shouldn't be allowed to sell them in week 2. That doesn't make
there's a lot of people that are full of hope,
or like, even preseason. You have to pick your battles. It's a 32 team league. You are fucking 6 guys from missing the team, and like another 4 on IR to not being able to field the lineup. So what is it at that point? Well, let me field a lineup that scores me enough points to like, I don't know, do nothing. Like, no, like you got to get something. You got to make a plan. And so like go look at all these trades. You're getting a guy who's on a 4-year deal for $3, who's a flyer. Okay. So it's like Argo, I looked at Argo's team. He's full of that shit. And like those guys work out. Trust me, from a guy who picks all these guys who are undrafted free agents that never holds on to, and they're all goddamn.
Oh yeah. There's nothing that Argo's doing that I think is not brilliant strategy. He's doing exactly within the rules, and if the rules aren't being established,
everyone in our current league is what they are doing is within the rules.
Yeah,
I don't see a single person in our league that I need to like raise an eyebrow and be like, oh, I don't know about intention here. I don't know about the tanking in this league. It's really bad, dude. Man, let's go look at Techno Vikings team when you had $300 in cap and didn't have a single player that was on a roster. Let's go look at that, and let's to act like we. And this is the whole thing. It's like we don't have to always make, like, if you want to try and make it perfect, like it's not going to be perfect, because then now what, we're just Nazi running everybody's rosters. It's like, okay, we're going to only trade on week 7 because then we can guarantee nobody is like.
That would be good strategy. Like,
what league does that? Not even these other 16 team leagues. There's plenty of teams. Go through our 16 team leagues, Corey, the other Paragons. How many teams are going for next year? But they have players. They're going to start them, but they're not trying to win. They're not trying to win. So what's the difference?
There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong if someone wants to pay their money to
Dynasty.
It's if they don't want to try to compete for 2 or 3 years in order to load up for 1 year, that's their choice. Everybody has their own different strategy. I would say, we've said it before, being in the middle is the dumbest strategy you can possibly be.
Having no strategy is the worst strategy. And to be fair, you want to look at Vito and you want to look at Argo, they got a fucking strategy. And you can't get better in any of these.
Vito was all in last year. He was all in trying to win it. And then
when are you allowed to rebuild? When are you allowed to rebuild? And in what manner do we have to, like, well, this is okay, but that's not okay. Like, stop. Like,
people like to chat.
That's fine, but everybody needs to shut the fuck up and realize that there are progression of rules that have happened to do this, and nobody has bothered to bring up what the solution would be for this. So what solution do you want to do? Trades only. We quit trading all year and we'll only trade in these certain weeks to make sure. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. Doesn't work like that. We don't have to go anymore.
Drink some of your Corona.
I'm drinking a Coors Light now. But I'm just
Well,
like,
that's disgusting transfer of wealth right there.
they're both shit
They
beer. What are you talking about?
yeah. I wanted to talk about it. I think you and I are kind of aligned, you know, you're much more passionate about it. I think people at the end of the day should be able to do whatever they want to do with their team, as long as it's not something where it's indifference at the end of the year and someone's just purposely not doing things. We have rules in place for that. And it's not collusion where someone's tanking and then giving their assets to someone else in order for them to be competitively better placed for the year. We have solutions for that. It's called a veto.
Or
So
A, bring up where there's a rule in violation and let's discuss it. Or B, show us your magically beautiful, perfect solution and
there
let's
isn't.
discuss it. But it doesn't matter. If you have a better idea, bring it up. There's no problem with that. There's a reason we have a lottery. There's a reason we have a cap minimum. All this stuff happened through conversation. But I'm not cool with every single year, the second a guy makes a trade to make his team to get picks and make his team next better, we're like, well, can we talk about tanking? It's like, shut up.
Bottom line is, here's the deal.
Sorry for the new people who haven't experienced this, but Georgia know better. You've been in this league a long time.
Everybody has their own strategy. They're entitled to be able to execute. And I'll tell you what, those strategies might end up biting them in the ass too. There's no guarantees just because you tank for 2 years in a row and have a bunch of draft picks that you're going to hit on the draft picks and all of a sudden you're going to be in good shape, you know, win the league for 3 years in a row. It just doesn't work like that.
I'm in a competitive rebuild with my own picks for the first time in the existence of this league.
Some people are going
to own my own picks in the existence of this league. And I'm, for the first time next year, going to own my picks. And I'm probably going to fuck myself and sit like 15th overall because I'm, you know, that's my decision. And I think my team can sneak in. And if I can sneak in, I believe I can go all the way. And we'll see how what happens. But
my only advice for the new guys is
I wish I had Argo's team.
You're lucky that you had a redraft. You had a redraft to kind of get assets the way you felt would best align with your upcoming season, and then you know, just pick a strategy and go with it. It's not good to be in the middle, and that doesn't. I mean, great if you want to compete. I tried to just in my first league in Paragons, in a 16-team league, try to compete because I just didn't know enough. And then after the second year, I'm like, okay, that's not going to work. You have to fucking figure this. BC, I knew I wasn't going to compete first year. Second year, I was like, still not trying to compete. And then third year, I was like, I'm all in. So it's
and you have to trade and be very lucky and be very aggressive to like continue to stay on top, right? Like to continue to not ever get to the rebuild. And there's some people who get to trade so much that they can kind of pick whatever world they want to be in, and Argo lives there. It's all you motherfuckers' fault because you guys give him 5,000 trades a year. But you know what? Not a lot of people ready to make a deal, and Argo's always ready. George says he's ready, but is he?
He doesn't win them all. He doesn't win them all, but he does make a lot of savvy moves that he's thinking within the rules, and he's playing checkers, and other people are playing, or he's playing chess, and everybody else is playing checkers.
I think Moose would agree that if Argo had no team bias, he probably would have won a lot more championships.
Well, here's the deal. Argo, and we love him, but he needs to win one in BC before we give him any clout whatsoever. So until he pulls this rebuild off,
I deserve nothing too.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, that's got to be the standard that we set for everybody.
Well, congratulations, you're the current favorite, Corey.
No, I don't know about that, but just on paper,
this year is all that matters. I'm not talking about 5 years.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I'm excited about where I'm at right now, but all can change just like the NFL after a week. All right, so we covered that. Now let's get into a little bit of the week 1 recap. We're right on schedule here. We're getting into this a little bit. Want to talk about? You want to pull up the screen, Ben? So we have our screen share in case anybody wants a visual. We're going to talk a little bit about the week 1 matchups. Ours was one of the ones that was discussed, Sal and Jesus, just because it was our first week and it happened to be us playing a couple of decent teams. We knew it wasn't going to be competitive, especially once Kelsey went out. I don't think there was any real surprise after that this was a 40-point contest. What were your thoughts going into the week and then kind of as it unfolded? Can you actually click on the results of the players, or is it just give you the overall?
Well, for now, it's just giving me the overall. You didn't tell me you wanted to go into each
No,
team.
that's fine. So I won by 40. Basically, I think I was predicted to win by that much. Kelsey was a real big time problem, obviously, because that would have more than likely got you another 20.
I mean, I
Still-
had tons of guys underperform, but you underperformed, but I'm sure you did too. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think
I'll just say this: you score 200 points in this league and lose. It doesn't happen often, so I'm all right with it. I mean, it was a better performance than I had hoped. I had really thought I was going to get in general once Kelsey went out. So, but yeah, I mean, again, like let's not keep talking about 40-point losses unless you want to actually scroll down and see that there's like 140-point losses. So
we'll get to that.
40 points is nothing in this type of fantasy. Like it's just, did your guys do what they were supposed to or not? And most of your guys did what they were supposed to more than mine did. And even then, like if both of ours had done all they were supposed to, and even if Kelsey was healthy, I think it would have been pretty close. So
I think
what you were thinking. That's my point.
I don't want to. Do you want to click on my team there real quick? I'm not. This isn't about
We're
me.
gonna do this every week.
No. I do. I just want to point this out because it's kind of interesting. I want to get your take on it. So I didn't. Not everybody performed the way I thought. Gabe Davis was. I mean, him and
Well,
Higgins.
we all expected 5.2 from Gabe Davis.
That's fine. Whatever. T. Higgins getting 0 points was unexpected. So, but what I've kind of thought about and what I'm excited about for my team this year is when I have injuries and when I have bye weeks, right? Everybody else is going to have to scramble. I feel like I can always set a pretty stable, solid lineup at every position, even in those situations. And I think that's where you can kind of make up some games and points on people after week 4 when bye weeks start to happen and injuries start to happen, right? So if you have 4 to 5, 6 receivers, you have 2 or 3 tight ends, you have 4 running backs, you have 4 middle linebackers, you have I don't have 6 stud wide receivers, but I have guys that can score points, right? And I have 3 pretty solid wide receivers.
You have one guy that scored over 5.2, Corey.
Right. I know. And I
why are we looking at your team?
I'm just saying, I think people underestimate. Yes, it's great to have studs, but you need to have other guys that are consistent performers, and you have to have depth at every position. I think that's super important.
You also have to have a horseshoe up your ass in a 32 team. Everybody has to have a horseshoe up their ass in a 32 team league. Everyone.
Right. What I'm saying is, if I lost 3 linebackers for the season, I would still be able to form it with 4 defensive ends and 2 other linebackers, right?
No, like you need to start 3. But I get what you're saying. And that's okay.
That's the reason why I'm excited. I don't have overly dominant
individual. Well, it just shows how
solid performers that are above average at every position, and there's a lot of them. That's all I'm saying.
That's totally
and I don't think they'll be. I don't think throughout the season, regardless of injury or without or even in bye weeks, that I'll have too many weeks that are below 180 to 200 points.
As long as you don't get hurt.
As long as I don't have too many injuries, right? And that's I think that's kind of, if you can do that.
You want to go look at how many people are on IR on the Mighty Orphans team, and then start discussing depth.
Oh, I don't even want to know.
It's week 1, man. I'm telling you, like this.
I'm just saying.
Lots of teams have depth, and it's all about getting through. And like, even in the playoffs, man, I see teams like the best teams get in the playoffs, and then like 6 injuries happen to their team, and then they like gone. And it's like,
all right, I don't want to talk about my team anymore. Let's go on to was it Lazy Bears and Mandy's? No, Lazy Bear and Moose's matchup, I think, was the other one that we had kind of talked about. I know there were some other ones that were mentioned in the Discord, but I thought that was good. Was supposed to be one of the better matchups of the week. Moose got a win. He's actually who I play next week. It's kind of really hard to discuss it if we don't actually see who performed well and where the kind of the surprises happen. But there we go.
Yeah, but this is this week.
Oh, okay.
So
You
I'm
can go
looking
back
at
to the week 1 scores, I think.
all right. Well, league. See, now we're wasting time.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is that I think Moose's team is just extremely scary just because of the 4 wide receivers he can start, and then if he wants to start a 5th, he could. I mean, he can't, but he has 5 stud wide receivers at this point. He's scary. He has 2 to 3 solid running backs. Like, he's got a very kind of similar team to me with better wide receivers, but he has a lot of depth and a lot of guys that can score points, and it's you know, it's not a fun matchup.
So this is weird. I don't know. It used to be easier to get to this. I'm probably just screwing it up, but I'll figure it out by next time. There's definitely a way to go look at the weeks before. I just don't know why it's not letting me go look at the details. It's a little annoying.
Let me look at the app, and I'll bring out some things for you just to kind of talk about it a little bit better, because we're not doing this segment any justice at this point.
Yeah, we didn't talk about your team enough.
No, I know. I'm sorry about that. I still just wanted
We're excited. I love it. You beat me.
That's a big.
You're already counting playoff wins. You're already telling people how to win championships and build championship rosters. Man, it's cute as fuck. I'm enjoying it.
I mean, the consistency on his offense, on Moose's offense, 28 from quarterback, 13, 14 from the 2 running backs, 14 from 1 receiver. Tony drew an egg. Chase had a low scoring game, 9.3. Diggs had 26.
Well, you can see it here because it's only been 1 week. We'll do better next time, but.
And then his defense was, he had a big linebacker performance by Jermaine Pratt. Will McDonald didn't do much. Peyton Turner's on IR now, so that's going to be a problem for him. Not a ton of points from his safeties. And then you look at Lazy Bears.
Yeah, but he has good safeties. It doesn't matter.
The other thing about Moose is I think he had a ton of points on his bench. Zay Flowers is on the bench. I don't think that'll happen again. He's usually, if you look at Moose's,
he has Kadarius Toney on his bench, who's definitely higher in the pecking order than Justin Ross.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. Scored the same amount though, so you got to feel good about that, huh, Corey?
Actually, Ross scored 0.4 points more, but the thing about Musso, he typically is always one of the people that, and I think we don't talk about this enough, it's pretty hard to do in week 1, but he's efficient with his lineups. He's usually in the 90% possible points versus how many points he actually scored in that week. And I think that should be looked at a lot more as far as a GM's ability to set the correct lineups. I think that's something that we need to kind of call out. Week 1, kind of tough to do. Week 2, kind of tough to do. But moving after week, you start to see trends, and you gotta kind of make your own decisions there. Although for some teams they don't even have very many options. People like Moose do, but I think he was in the low 80s for his efficiency for week 1, which is scary too.
Efficiency, especially after this week. And more importantly, like, would you tell him, hey, Moose, don't play AJ Brown. You might want to, give Kadarius. I don't know. Probably a bad example, but like, it's just like, you should have played Parker Hesse instead of.
There's no way I would have played Kadarius Toney over Zay Flowers. Zero chance. I'm just saying that stuff is like, I'm sure if you asked him again, he's like, yeah, why did I do that? Like, he was an 84.9 efficiency in week 1. That'll improve from him, which is
why did he do it? He's the number 1 wide receiver receiving from Patrick Mahomes with fucking Kelsey out.
He hadn't played for the whole preseason.
Okay, whatever. Why don't you take it up with Moose? I don't agree with that take.
I'm just saying.
I don't agree with your efficiency take either. I think it's.
You don't think efficiency is important?
In this fucking league? Are you fucking kidding me? After week 1, you want to start tearing people down for efficiency?
No, I just said that, you dumbass. I just said that in week 1, it's hard to be efficient. I said after week 4, you have to start making the correct lineup decisions if you want to maximize your points. That's exactly what I said. Roll the tape.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it is more difficult for players or GMs that have
Do you want to
more
give me the
players.
efficiency rating on the other team as well?
I'll give you one more efficiency rating for week one, just to throw it out there.
What about the Lazy
Mr.
Bears? I want to know about their efficiency rating.
Mr. Georgia had a 64% efficiency rating, lowest of the week. Just throwing that out there. So that's
Yeah,
not real
but
good.
that's also, see, all you're doing is giving him fires that he's like, see, I do have the best team and I'm
I
gonna
forgot
be
we weren't going to
better.
talk. Yeah, well, we'll
So,
see.
congratulations.
He'll probably
You just stroked that war horse.
So, what did Lazy Bears do wrong, or where did he have a chance that he could have possibly pulled it out?
I don't think he could have.
Oh.
He lost by
Yeah.
more than 40. Woo! Like,
I mean, Murray didn't get him hardly any points. Christian Harris had an okay game. Frank Luvu had an okay game.
And it's so hard to look at a roster and be like, "What did you do wrong?" It's like, did you guys score points?
He didn't do anything wrong. But just
Unless you lose by 5 points, there's not a lot of things that you can look at and be like, "Man, should have done that." Not in this league.
Like, Njoku didn't have a very good game.
No,
it was a low scoring. I mean, I have to feel bad for the guy that has Garrett Wilson too, man. God, the optimism.
I got him in a league. Not in this league, but I got him in a league. I mean, that just takes good enough to be okay. If you have any other jet wide receiver, RIP.
Look at those running backs too. Oh, look at this 7.92 points from Tennessee. That didn't help him. His running backs trending up this week. Brees Hall, DeAndre Swift, and Javonte Williams. Javonte Williams got a lot of action. I think he had 18 touches for his first game. That's pretty decent. Brees Hall looked fucking awesome. DeAndre Swift's going to get some run this week.
He has Garrett Wilson.
I know. That's what I just said. I feel bad for him. That fucking sucks.
Jeez. So what? He fucking scored more than most wide receivers did in this week. He scored 14.4 more than T. Higgins, Corey.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of guys that had goose eggs this week, bud. I mean, that's what I'm saying. You can't overreact to week one. I don't think I'm trading T. Higgins for fucking Justin Ross,
Lazy Bears are going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine.
Okay.
Don't worry about Corey's efficiency ratings.
Well, he was actually more efficient than Brad. So if I were going to give out a report card, his is better.
You need a separate pod for efficiency report cards.
I just think it's a number that we have to
Georgia
track.
Can't wait. He's just pounding.
Like, you don't want to be in the 60%. That either means you have a lot of really good players or you're really shitty GM. It's one of the two.
Don't want to talk about this one?
Move on to let's talk to Mandy and see what his efficiency rating was.
We forgot even in our pregame to talk about this one.
Oh, fucking A. Poor Wayne.
Wayne, 0.2.
Right, look,
Wayne lost by point. Okay, so you want to talk efficiency? Well, I don't know.
Well, I'll quite frankly say Wayne could have won that matchup if he was a good GM. There's no way that there's not 0.5, 0.20 points on his bench.
Look at this guy's has 17 running backs. How is his efficiency rating? Jesus Christ.
That's Michigan, though.
I know, but that's my point. Like,
that's a lot of running backs.
My goodness. So we can't look at Wayne's team. Didn't he just trade everyone away, or is he trying to trade everyone away?
I don't know what Wayne's doing. I know he's going to go out with a bang this year for sure.
Brian Branch, that one's going to be good. He says it's fine. Look at this. Look at this. Yeah, like, look, he's got 2 linebackers and 3 FAs. Like, what are we going to do? We're going to start telling him he's tanking. Quit tanking at 1-0 because you have 2 linebackers. Like, give me a break.
No, we're just talking about how he squeaked out a 0.20 win because of how smart his lineup decisions were.
Yeah, I mean, hey, poor Wayne.
Let's put it this way. Michigan Wolverines and Wayne are 2 of the victories that I'm counting on this year if I'm going to make a playoff push. No offense, guys.
And no injuries.
Well, I could maybe afford 1 or 2 and still win. All right. Well, that is a tough blow to Mr. Wayno, who almost came out of the season with a 1-0 victory and lost it by 0.20. That's got to be a heartbreaker. I would have a hard time with that. And he had, like, where could have you gone, done something different here?
Oh, this is a nice little one. This has where the S's.
Oh, did he not start Jerry Tillery?
No, it looks like it doesn't matter. He started the guy who got 20.
Well, I think Wayne only has like an obvious 22 people that could start
There
on
we
his
go.
team,
Is
and the
this
rest
his
of them are pretty.
schedule? It still won't give us the matchup. What the hell is wrong with this? I'm gonna figure this out. Sorry, guys. I thought it was a lot easier to find. I don't know why I can't find the week 1 matchups with the points.
Well, you could do it on your phone, but the other people wouldn't be able to see
Yeah,
it.
that's fine. All right, let's move on. What's who are we talking about? Mando's.
The only other thing that we want to just give a little bit of credit to Mando and how daunting his team looks like, with almost a 300 possible points scored.
144-point win against
Yeah, I mean,
Boston.
He won by more than Georgia scored. So that's I mean that's scary when when he's in your conference.
Oh
Uh,
man,
that's very scary. Where did he get his points from? Let's look.
Mandy, dude, his team's so
Offense,
stacked.
offense, offense.
His team's so stacked. His possible points were like 310, man. So what's his
44
efficiency? What's his efficiency?
So between
Let's
Tyreek Hill
criticize
and
the efficiency of the guy who scored 280 points.
I already looked at his. His is like he was in the low 90s, I think. Tyreek Hill and Justin Jefferson were 44 and 26. He really didn't even have a good game from Barkley, Josh Jacobs. Nick Chubb had an okay game. Tua had 37.54. If he gets 70 from that connection, I mean, it's good night. Now, we don't know. Tua could be, go into convulsions on the field by week 5, and it's good.
Did you notice he has Mark Andrews, who didn't play as well?
Well, yeah, and Gesicki was his backup, so not
6
bad
points,
there.
but I mean, he almost put a 300 pizza on this league, and he didn't have the number 2 tight end.
Where he is vulnerable, Reddick only had 1 point, so not vulnerable there. Josh Allen made up and had 36 on defense. He had 17 from his cornerback, and then his linebackers were average, 8 and 9.
You want to pick apart a roster
0.
that scored 300 points? I mean,
I'm just saying, like, what the critique of Mandy has been all season or all off season was, if he has 1 or 2 injuries on his studs, like a Barkley, a Jacobs, a Hill, a Jefferson. I don't want to wish that voodoo on anybody, but then he's not super deep and he doesn't have that strong of a defense, is what I thought. I mean, listen, man, I would trade places with his team at any point and take my chances. So whatever he's done it correctly. Mandy's got a juggernaut of a team, and I feel bad for anybody that has to play him, and I do, and he's in my division, so I won't be winning.
This is the way. It's Mandy's world, and we're just living in it. We're all playing for second.
All right, so we got to move on, buddy, because we're running out of time here. Week 1 player surprises on offense and defense. We'll pick a few. We've already kind of discussed a few. Do you want me to go first? Do you want
yeah, your offense. Let's do offense, and then we'll go defense. I'm gonna stop sharing now.
So I already mentioned Purdy. I thought he played well. That bodes well for San Francisco. I thought Zay Flower having, I think, 10 or 11 targets was, I mean, he's just electrifying. I think now, especially with Dobbins out, I think depending on who they bring in as a running back, they're going to continue to use him in creative ways. Like, he is the alpha dog number 1. I don't think OBJ will have more than 50 receptions this year. That's why I thought that David Montgomery deal was just bad. But that's a different topic for a different day. So Zay Flowers was super exciting. I did think that the Javonte Williams usage was pretty good coming off the injury. Having, I think, 17 touches was solid for him. I think the wide receivers were just, in general, was just very weird, right? Like a lot of guys just having no-show performances, kind of, led by T. Higgins. Who else? Tony was another one that didn't have a very good week, obviously. But there's actually quite a few guys, I think. Oh, Drake London. If you're a Drake London owner right now, ouch. Like zero. I mean, they threw 17.
It's like having T. Higgins. It's very.
Oh yeah, no, I'm fully aware of that. Like, yeah, that sucked. I mean, I'm glad I won, because had I got 0 from T. Higgins in week 1, I'd been pissed off, and if I lost.
But I think those guys will rebound. It was nice to see Calvin Ridley kind of have a dominant performance in week one. I think he had 6 catches at halftime, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, he kind of said he was the guy this year, and he kind of proved to be. In that same wide receiving core, I know people are excited about Zay Jones over Christian Kirk. So we'll see how that one kind of shakes out as who becomes kind of the number 2 legitimate player. Bijan Robinson and then Agier, as far as how many touches Tyler Agier got in that offense, like that was kind of surprising, right? Like you would think that if you're the Algier owner, like you're kind of in shambles when they draft someone like Bijan, but fuck, I think he had 18, something like that, touches in the first week and over 25 fantasy points, something around there.
Yeah, but I think that's the same as David Montgomery. You know, it's just a rinse repeat. By week 4, you're gonna wish you had the other.
Yeah, I mean Gibbs is up there for me as far as like being slightly disappointed. Like 7 touches, like the fucking dude looks super explosive. It's like, okay, you just have to ride the waves. Don't over panic on that. Those rookie running backs are gonna,
They both looked way better than their counterparts, but their counterparts were efficient. So it's like, I don't know, you got to use them both. But I mean, I don't think anything we saw you would want Montgomery over Gibbs and Algier over Robinson. And outside of like, home leagues where you like don't want to be patient for like 2 or 3 weeks, like I think you're fine with those rookies. They look really good.
I think the other one that I had was James Cook. Man, they tried to get him involved. I mean, I didn't see him getting that many touches. Like he just seemed like every play they were dropping it off to him or trying to hand it off to him. Like they really wanted to get him going. And then Damian Harris obviously kind of taken over in the red zone. It's a little bit scary, but I think, Cook's the type of guy that's going to be more busting 15, 20-yard touchdown runs than he
Davis
is.
Murray got a lot of run.
He got a lot of run in the no huddle, not the no huddle, the 2-minute drills and on third down, which is fucking just bizarre.
And he didn't look bad. He looked good, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, if Cook gets that kind of workload this year, yes, I mean he's an RB1. I mean top 15, top 16 RB, I think, at the end of the year. Chase Brown being inactive, I think was kind of, that's not great. That means he didn't beat out Chris Evans or Travion Williams. I mean, that could change, but I was a little bit more optimistic about Chase Brown and his role in Cincinnati. Rashad White got a lot of touches, definitely led the backfield there. I thought that was interesting. As a Bears fan, boy, I had invested a lot in DJ Moore this season, and to have him have that kind of shit performance was extremely disappointing. So I think there'll be better days. Let's reassess after 4 weeks on some of those guys, but definitely some high moments from some guys and some weak performance as well. Quarterback play was not great this week in general. I didn't think either. So
what do you got? There weren't a lot of offenses that looked very good in general. Like just everyone's rusty, Everyone's trying to play less and do less in the preseason for injuries, but then you can tell they're, they need to work out the kinks. So
definitely,
I have a question for you.
Okay.
Do you know the 4 running backs that played 80% or more of their snaps on offense?
The 4 running backs,
80% or more.
Oh my gosh. Joe Mixon.
No.
Well, I know Derrick Henry did because he played less snaps than Tajay Spears, but got 12 or 15 more touches.
That happened a lot for some reason, that the backups got more than the starters, but not for this
You would think people would start to, well, week 1, they can't really hone in on it. So it's kind of a smart strategy, right? Like, I mean, Tajay Spears ran a shit ton of routes, though. I think that's positive for him.
You would agree that if you got 80% of snaps, a running back, that's the definition of a workhorse, right?
Did Alexander Madison get 80% of snaps?
No, sir.
Wow. I don't know who got 80% snaps and did shit with it.
James Conner,
Oof, forgot
Christian
about him.
Christian McCaffrey.
Well, he did some shit.
80% with Mitchell. Like that didn't happen, I don't think, at all last year. They split it way more than that. That
And
was
they were blowing him out too. I mean,
Yeah.
that's just
Travis Etienne,
wow.
Josh Jacobs.
Hmm. Jacobs one, I think. I mean, it's final year. They're gonna ride him into the fucking ground.
Yeah, probably.
Uh,
I mean, they're gonna drive everyone into the ground. And then there was 7 running backs who had 70% or more, and I won't have you guess those. I'll just go through them. But that's still, if you have a running back who runs 70% of the time, you're going to feel really good about starting them, right?
but McCaffrey was the only one that had really great production out of that group.
I'm just talking about volume, man. You have to look at
Yeah.
volume. I mean, volume matters in this game. Like you want volume, and who has the volume has opportunity. Who has opportunity is the most consistent in points. So the 7 guys who had 70 or more were your boy David Montgomery, which was crazy because actually they played a lot of 2 back sets with him and Gibbs, and then Deion Jackson.
Yeah, he was awful though.
He was so bad, but he had 70%. Mostert,
There was also injuries there. I know like a couple guys got hurt in that game too.
yeah,
But
most
yeah, I mean,
Mostert did as well for Miami. This is where Madison was. Ramondre Stevenson.
I think
Jamal,
Stevenson stock has to be rising. I
yeah.
would be buying stock in Stevenson again.
Jamal Williams
Oh,
and Rashad White. So now I just told you the 11 most volume led running backs. And outside of what? ETN and McCaffrey, were any of those guys taking top 10 running backs? I mean, like, where were most of these guys taken? Like
but
in a draft, if you were doing a snake draft, or like just thinking about like the volume blew my mind. I couldn't believe how much volume these average Jags were getting. But hey, man, it's like
I think that'll change heavily, especially in Montgomery's situation.
we'll monitor it. For now, those guys have all the volume.
Madison and White were both taken because of the fact that you thought that they were going to get all the volume, not because they were efficient. And I think that's basically what happened.
So was Stevenson.
Stevenson, I would have had above both of those guys, even before the Zeke signing and after. And because he's more of a pass catching running back, I would say I'm more positive on Stevenson because of the fact that I think Mac Jones looked better and they threw it like 40 times, didn't they? Like they threw it a shit ton. Speaking of which, forgot to mention Anthony Richardson. If you would have told me he was going to throw it 40 times in his first fucking football game and almost score 2 rushing touchdowns, boy, I'd be happy if I were his owner in any league.
We saw him go pretty high in one of our leagues in the first round, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I mean, he's a dangerous looking motherfucker. That's for sure. All right, that's good. That's good information. I like that. We need to do more of that snap count thing. But I'm just a little bit weary of sharing some of that information.
That's fine. I don't give a shit. Nobody trades with me because they think I'm smart and I'm not. I just copy nerds.
Yeah, there was John Boy's. If anybody really wants to break some of this stuff down, John Boy Jackson's breakdown is fucking unreal. Like you can put a thesis together on some of that shit. Like just routes run, routes per target. Like I mean, it's just unbelievable. Snap counts. I don't have time to do that shit. Barely have time to read it, but pretty interesting. Pretty interesting analytics these days.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll give you some super quick highlights. There's too much to talk about on defense to really just get off the rails.
Can I say one thing before you start your segment on the Keep It Snappy and
we're not doing Keep It Snappy yet.
Okay. Well, you're going to have a long runway after this. I just want to say I want to give you credit for the last pod because you had some great calls on Jack Campbell. And then you even said Gibbons would be a good possible start. The only one that you missed, I think, was both of us. We just didn't think Jordan Brooks was healthy, but apparently he was because he ended up having a pretty decent game. But I
I
want to
said
give
I
you
wanted
credit.
to see it. Yeah, I said I wanted to see it because that's what they were doing, and he sure as shit was healthy.
And
Sure
you
as
also
shit.
gave me two of three winning bets. The only bet that you didn't hit on was Minnesota over, and you gave me 2 of 3 IDP tackles bets that won Caden Ellis and Ernest Johnson. So
You
just
should
want to
have
give
got
you
my Monday
props.
night bets, baby. God damn, I
Shit,
cleaned
I
house
was
on Monday night, man. They
I
had,
need to go. I need to go to that well again this week because I didn't
oh
have a good
man,
week. Corey was
IDP,
making drunk bets.
IDP, like they'll cap you at like a $25 bet on these IDP bets, but like some of
Not
it's
me.
egregious. Like holy hell, like they had Matt Milano 7.5 tackles. Just I would have put a
Billy.
house. I would have put a fucking house on that, and he actually barely got there. The other one was I think I bet Hoyer 4.5 tackles. I think he got like 9. It's
When
just
you're giving
like
me a
take it
quarterback
all
tackle,
day.
it was
Take it all
great.
day.
I need to do a couple of
Um,
those.
speaking
All
of the
right, go ahead.
Bills, speaking of the Bills, and another bet that I actually missed on. In that, I made a parlay of the. So I took like Milano over 10 tackles and like Poyer over 7, and then I took the under on Bernard, who was starting, because I figured that they would be working in Dotson and they'd be like putting some guys in, but they played. Terrell Bernard played 100% snaps, like,
That's crazy.
and he balled out. I think he had like 11 tackles. He had a like insane day. There's like
100%.
I'd say like Jermaine Pratt had more than Logan Wilson. So that was a little weird. You had a lot of these like guys who you didn't know how much we're gonna play, who scored a lot week one. I'd like to see how that goes in the next one. But another call, I didn't really call it, but I mentioned when you're going down to the team, the Michael Dana. I'd seen that he was really kind of doing well for Kansas City, and he actually got like 85% snaps and like just crushed. So he was good. Um, I was really surprised that Kenneth Murray ended up playing a lot. That was super weird for me. The Jeremy Chin, I was pretty on the chin with that one. His usage was really bad. What else did we talk about last week? Can't remember all of them. But I would say, like, in general, we found out so much of the usage of like what these guys were doing. That's probably what I would rather talk about is like, and we can go into keep it snappy from this, and I'll probably just make comments based off of this information. But for now,
No, that's exactly what I
I
want you to do.
I want you to. I'm going to ask you another question, Corey.
Uh-oh.
Who do you think were the top 5 blitzing teams in Week 1?
I have no idea. I have no idea. It would be based off the defensive coordinator, right?
I would say if you blacked out most of Sunday, that you won't be able to give me an educated guess.
I would know the answer anyway. Even if I didn't black out, I mean, I would have to really think about it.
It's a borderline trick question because you might not get a single one that's on here.
I would say the Steelers.
That's not right, but just go through 5 and then I'll just.
I would say whoever played the rookie quarterback. So whoever played Houston, whoever played Stroud.
Okay.
Cleveland. Give me Cleveland. But that's a rainy game, so I don't know about that.
So hold on. Everyone who played a rookie quarterback, that's 3. And then you said Steelers, and then you said Cleveland. Okay, so the only one correct on that is Cleveland. But Cleveland was number 5. Number 1, Minnesota Vikings. Number 2, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the 2 heaviest blitzing teams played each other in Week 1. And I'm talking at like a 60% plus tote. I mean, it was like aggro. And then the Broncos, number 3. Cincinnati, number 4. And then Cleveland, number 5. And they played each other. Reason I bring this up is because like I just know so much about these coordinators. I think I know, like, and I just saw that and I knew we were going to blitz a lot. And I watched that game and I was like, man, it feels like they're blitzing a lot. But I didn't realize that, A, we were 1-2. But even though the Cincinnati Cleveland game, I thought they were getting home with 4, but they weren't. It was like heavy blitz packages. And so, like, that's good to know when you're trying to play, some of these off ball linebackers and guys that you're trying to get points from, safeties. Like, you want to think about these types of teams. Like, there was like a lot of teams that didn't blitz, which I thought was pretty crazy too. So then,
Yep.
so now there's like 5 teams. I'm going to make you do this again. 5 teams that played dime snaps. What are the top 5? Meaning they played DBs the most, like the dime package. And I would tell you this is like a very high number of times that they did the top 5. They're
Miami and San Diego.
no and no.
All right. Green Bay.
Nope.
Detroit.
No.
I have no idea. Moving
It's
on.
okay. I mean, you're kind of set up to fail on this. Number 1, Dallas. So Dallas
Oh,
ran
that.
Dallas ran the most dime, meaning they were probably using a lot of safeties as linebackers, or they were just trying to
They were
get
just
home.
keeping everything.
They're just trying to get home with their dudes up front, But I think Bauer even mentioned that they were going to try and play like a ton of their linebacker snaps were going to come from the safeties, and I think that happened. And then number 2 was the Titans, which I almost want to go back and watch that game because that's not how they used to be. But their defense played really good against New Orleans, and usually you play a lot of dime if you're playing like Patrick Mahomes, right? But not the case. That's why I thought Detroit was a good guess, but they didn't play that much. Number 3 was the Commanders, and the Commanders stocked up on all these these hybrid safety types, so that kind of makes sense. Number 4 is the Pats, and which is kind of what they've been doing for like 3 or 4 years, right? The Pats have been running tons and tons of backs. It's like why they're kind of hard to predict because they have like 7 or 8 rotating defensive backs. And number 5 was the Vikings. And so the reason I bring up these 2 stats and blitz rates and dime snaps is that this is kind of how you start to see who you should be playing what positions from, right? And we can go and look at the snaps of what middle linebackers played and stuff like that. But for the most part, this is such a funny light. It just keeps going on and off. It seems to me, even looking at these dime rates, that like the linebacker is dying, and the hybrid safety is becoming way more popular than it ever was. Like, and you're
I agree.
and maybe it's the Pats who trend set it like that. I know Flores did that in Miami coming from New England, but it seems like looking at the percentages, like a lot of teams are doing that, or they're not doing it at all. There was I think there's 15 teams who ran 0 dime. So now, if we want to give some highlights off of that information, the only thing I'm going to do and keep it snappy today is I'm going to give you the teams who had 2 linebackers who played 80% snaps or more. Okay, so when I started playing IDP, it was 2 100% linebackers, possibly 3. If the third didn't play 100% snaps, usually 65. That's how defenses were run as short as 5 years ago. Okay, so Atlanta, they have 2 linebackers who play 100%. Baltimore, because they have Roquan Smith and Queen, they both played 100%. The Bills, with Terrell Bernard, their linebackers played 100%. Carolina, Chicago, Cincinnati, the Broncos, Indy, Jacksonville, because Devin Lloyd played 100%, which I was super interested to see. And Chad Muma played 0 snaps. Devin Lloyd was actually incredibly inefficient. Like, I think his efficiency was like tackle efficiency was like
I think he only scored like
4%.
6 points. Yeah.
I think his tackle efficiency was 4%. That's really bad. So better days ahead, hopefully, for him. The Chargers did, which was crazy because Kenneth Murray, but I think, the rookie Henley, he was out. So that is what it is. Las Vegas, New Orleans, the Jets, San Francisco, Tampa Bay. Okay. So those are the only ones who had 2 linebackers at 90 or 80% and more. Right. And like, this is like, I don't think we need to go rule changing again. But if you want to talk about scarcity at the position all of a sudden, this is all you need to look at. Because 5 years ago, it was like 30 teams playing 2 linebackers 100% snaps, and then a third linebacker that was getting like 67. That doesn't even, outside of like 2 teams, there isn't a third linebacker getting relevant snaps. So even when we're looking at teams, it's like there's no such thing as being deep at linebacker in a 32 team league. We don't mathematically have the linebackers who play snaps. Like, I think you're just going to have to be satisfied with figuring out who are really good special teams players for your third guy. I mean, I got lucky that Micah McFadden and my boy Pace started. We'll see how long that lasts. But I really think
there's definitely, I'm sorry to disagree with you there, but there's every team that I look at and I'm scared of has 3 to 4 linebackers that are playing significant snaps.
Right.
That are
okay, teams you're scared of. But like that's probably as important as any position.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's very similar to the conversation that we're having with offense, and linebackers are the running backs, and safeties and our hybrid players are more kind of like your Debo Samuel type players or your Chris McCaffreys that are doing 2 positions at once kind of thing. Like, I think you have to really be cautious of that as the NFL teams start to develop how they're playing these pass heavy offenses and keeping people out, going from side to side and backs out of the backfield that are actually wide receivers. And it's like, it's going to evolve. And like, I think because of one's doing one way, that makes the defense have to respond to it. Right. And we have to respond to it as GMs in the fantasy world as well.
So the next piece of that information that I didn't mention yet, there are 5 teams who had 0 linebackers play over 80% snaps.
5 teams that had 0 linebackers play.
0 linebackers play a full-time role. The Browns, I think their highest percentage linebacker was 48%, if I could remember right. Something very Huh?
No, I'm just thinking in my head.
And the Cowboys, who were in a blowout, but still they ran the most dimes, so that kind of makes sense, right?
And Parsons is considered a defensive end, right?
Yeah, I mean, they have some guys who kind of fluctuate. Green Bay, Philly, and that could be because Jacoby Dean got hurt. Like, Dean probably would have played 100% snap. And then the Steelers also in a blowout. But my point is, like, if you want to go look at, like, if we want to go total of this stuff, like you said, it's comparable to running backs. Their teams are running 3 running backs. Teams aren't running 3 linebackers. Yeah. And we have to start 3 linebackers with a 4th flex. We have to start 2 running backs. So like, I just think that it's by far the most valuable position at this point, because even like the value you can get out of kick returning or punt returning, even though kick returning is dying, like punt returning will still get you
right.
5 points, 4 or 5 points from a wide receiver 6 or 7, right? So tight end is where we see probably the most shallow, and I'd say it that's where the conversation probably is. It's like tight ends and now linebackers, but we start the most at that position. And I don't want to keep changing rules, but at some point, you're just going to have to realize like teams will have
Well, you also have to
will
start
have
start.
will not have players like you can just sustain a couple 3 injuries and you won't have a starting linebacker or a linebacker that gets points. And so that's actually unfortunate, right? If the injury bug hits you at a linebacker, you're just going to chalk it up as a 0 and there's nothing on
You
the
also
board.
have to start. You have to start drafting people that, or acquiring people that you think are either mislabeled and or are kind of hybrid type players that can go from safety to linebacker or whatever it is, like D tackle to D end or what, I mean, like you can still start 3 solid defensive ends if you have those, right? Like, and maybe get lucky from a guy moving from defense tackle to defense
Yeah,
end
but
that gets set.
you still got to start 3D, like 3 linebackers is your minimum. That's the
Yeah.
point. And like again, I
Yeah.
don't want to change shit. Like this is a problem that like if you listen to anybody talk IDP, it's all of a sudden the linebackers are moving ahead of DNs and like even the highest elite levels, and that's unless you do like really exaggerated scoring for big plays on the D line, which we do a little bit, but I don't think we do quarterback hits and some other stuff that we probably should at this point for another discussion. But I'm so sick of fucking with the rules, but it's like when you look at this, it's just like do with that information what you will. But if you have no
I think
linebackers, guess what? Nobody really does either.
it's really interesting, and I want to see next week how much of that changes because of game plan and kind of game script and how the games went, and see if it's consistent. So I think that'll be a good segment for us to kind of keep diving
I'll
into.
keep an eye on it, but it's going to be pretty consistent. I think those schemes are all doing that. It's not like, you
Well,
look at
game
a lot
plan.
of them and it's like, well, if the thing is, if a guy gets hurt or stuff like that, there's another guy who jumped in. That wasn't the case a lot. And like, I'll say this again to reiterate the scarcity point. When there's 3 linebackers, 2 full timers, and like a third who's playing on a team, those are 3 backup positions that have potential for an injury. So that's like a potential for your guy on your bench to become a starter. But if there's only one, like you
Yeah.
need like 3 in some of if you're like have a 4th string, the third 4th string linebacker, you have no chance for that guy to get any run unless you have 3 4, which is kind of unfortunate because that was never the case. Like you could usually go through one of these seasons and then it'd be like, oh, somebody got hurt, I just got a starter, it'll help me for the run, or maybe another guy got a starter, he's not doing so good, you can get a trade. We'll see. But I would say if anything should have we should see action on anything when we get to the deadline and somebody's trying to stay relevant. It's going to be trying to chase like linebackers who get points because you're just going to be like, I'm sick of getting 6 points
0.
every week at the
Yeah.
position,
Yeah, that's rough.
and that's it.
All right, buddy. That's awesome. That was great. I like that insight. One of the best on the IDP stuff. It's motivating. I need to spend more time doing a little bit of research, obviously, and not getting too drunk on Sundays to where I can't even start the games or high, whichever one it was. Whatever it was, it hit me like 10 bricks. I will be better next week. I am going to be traveling next week, so we will have to figure out a time to do this with me in a hotel. But we can make that happen. And
If we got to truncate it, we'll keep it snappy.
We are going to skip the questions from the Discord this week because we talked a hell of a long time about the tanking situation. So we'll save some of those questions for next week. But I do want to go over the games of the week for week 2, and then we're out of here. So can you pull up that screen again for week 2, and we'll pick a couple of teams here that we think we should have our eye on as contenders that are important weeks already.
Yes, sir. Sorry, I'm getting this up here. Here we go. We'll actually be able to see everything on their teams,
So the
projections, everything.
So the week 2 games of the week that we had identified were Fleece and Bad Boy.
Okay, that is.
And we're just going to spend a couple minutes on this. We're not going to go over a ton. So Fleece is wow.
Doesn't look
Bad
like
Boy.
much of a game.
Well,
Wow.
the predicted points were both both of them, when I looked, was both of them over 200.
It says down here. Yeah. Well, this is 188 to 240. I
See,
don't
I
know.
get completely different numbers from the app
The
than
apps,
what you
this is why MFL is insane. Like the app has one thing and then like, the site has another one. Regardless, I think some of it, who did he get some people
want to
hurt?
say hi to the Tennessee football podcast people, honey. My wife just got back from her softball game. Say hi to Ben.
Hi.
Benny.
Well, she can't see.
Rock on. There we can see her. Yes.
Did you hit any home runs, honey?
I hit pretty well.
You're about to get hit. I'll be
No,
up there
I
in a
do.
minute. Um, so maybe that's not one. I'm sorry, I got a little thrown off there, but
Well, Flea Sits want to know. Were you trying to go like check out some of the
no, when you just click on the app and then you click on the two games, like my matchup versus Brad's 215 to 212. Bad Boys and Fleece is 214 to 176. So I guess it was never that close.
No. That's actually a bigger gap than it's written here.
Yeah. All right. Well, the other one I had, let's pull this one up. Dominion and Highland Town.
That's
The Dominion versus Highland. So that one on my app is 208 predicted points versus 200.
Down here.
So they're both scored. They're both predicted to score over 200,
Yeah,
which I think is
224, 235. If you're predicted to score over 200, it's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Both 1-0.
Yep. So this is the official game of the week then. Cam Akers could be kind of interesting to see where that goes for him. I think Chargers quarterback. I'll take his team, and then you can take the other one. I think the Chargers quarterback will play better and score more points. But Tennessee's defense, you never know there. Tutu Atwell was promising. Do you think he will score that much? Probably be balanced out by Drake London anyway. I wouldn't be too excited if I was an Alan Lazard owner at this point. Tyler Igby will probably be consistent. Bosa and Owa, probably similar points. I would expect Nick Bosa to score a few more points. Zaire Franklin. Ooh, what did he do last night?
Dude, he went the fuck off. I think he had 18 tackles. Corey, you should have never traded him.
That was awful. Thanks, Ben. Mr. IDP, my ass.
Can't be right all the time.
Got a couple good studs, and then he's got my boy Brisker, who's going to have a better game. I think he was a little banged up against the Packers. That wasn't great. So, yeah, I think he's got a solid team. I mean, he can definitely go off. What do you think of old Dominion? I haven't looked at the Dominion's team too much this year. Maybe I'm underestimated him a little bit.
I think Highland's team, first of all, is just really balanced. His defense is so good. Like he's got explosive players that are going to score a lot.
What does he have for
his bench
reserves?
Oh, he struck out on Devin Bush. That's kind of a bummer. Malik Harrison got some run.
Doesn't have a ton
Gordon
of depth.
Phillips got a sack. Yeah, the DNs are a little light. Still, like, I don't know, these two get run. I mean, that's better than most benches.
I think his team really is solid if Cam Akers is good.
Shallow at safety, but I mean, he's got 3 starters, so he's fine, man. That's a good deep team.
He doesn't have a good running back room either, and I don't think he's got a great wide receiver.
Yeah, I think like you got to have something not work for you and still make it work. I played a couple of years with no tight end and made the playoffs. Like if you're scoring less at a position, you just got to make up for it somewhere else. And he's definitely doing that with linebackers and safeties. I'll tell you that. And his corners are the top.
Yep.
He's got 2 of the top corners, although Snead didn't play as much in the slot as he used to. They gave that to McDuffie. So they're both going to be good, but I think McDuffie's going to be really good.
Dominion, so he's got
probably it's good at running backs as you're going to get in this league, right? And then
I would expect more performance,
streaky wide receivers, right? So we'll see how he gets out of that. I didn't see, is Schoonemaker the starter? Is he the one that's getting? I think he is. I can't remember. I looked at that earlier at the snaps, but
Wasn't Hendershot, that was for sure.
yeah, he's playing 2D tackles, which is usually a sign that you have no depth. Except those guys are played really well last week, so maybe he wants to try and ride it. Yannick had a good game. Miles Garrett is the best. He got Terrell Bernard, so that's a hit, man. He didn't look like he was going to be starting, but if you have Baker, Bernard, and Okereke, you're crushing. They all get 100%. Josh Jobe might be starting now. I think they lost 2 corners.
He is.
And then the famous Marcus Jones, who can play offense, who didn't last time and his snaps were low. He's going to be a tough guy to know. That might be matchup based, but if he doesn't get those offensive snaps or kick return snaps.
I am predicting that I think Highlandtown's going to win this game, and it's going to be based off the fact that his team just has more potential explosion folks. And I think that Dominion's team is kind of solid, but was solid last week where he is solid. So his McCaffrey Mixon, I would expect maybe a few more points out of that. Zay Jones had a really good game last week, and I think his linebackers played pretty well last week. So and Yannick had a sack last week, 15. I don't expect him to get 15 points every week. So I would say that he overperformed last week, and I would expect that Highlandtown wins this game. That's my prediction.
That's fair. I think it's super close.
Yeah, it should be. Should be a close game.
But I do believe I think they have similar offense or defenses, and I would actually probably give the win to Highlandtown.
Just never know. I mean,
you're getting a borderline 0 with Michael Burton, so it's like that's. I mean, I'm okay taking either, man. I mean, I could take Dominion just to make it interesting, but I think it's pretty coin flippy.
Why don't we do that for the rest of the year? You take one and I take one, and then we judge it.
As long as we don't go Skip Bayless and like scream about our teams like we give a shit.
All righty. Well, that's a good recap of their teams. We got them a little airtime.
You guys are 50-50. That's fucking gangster.
What's the total points on that one?
243 to 242.
Boy, I didn't want to make this the game of the week because I didn't want to talk about myself, but this is.
Well, we talked about your team for 30 minutes already, and we talked about Moose's. Well, we talked about Moose's and his efficiency percentages, right? So do you think
crazy?
Is your efficiency going to win you this week versus Moose?
Well, just go ahead and look at that team compared to the ones we just looked at, and then you tell me what we got going on. I don't care. I mean, you can rip mine apart all you want.
I don't. It's like I think Moose's team is far above better than yours, in my opinion, but the scores say you guys are closer, which is crazy.
Where do you say that he is far above better than me? Like, I don't understand how you can make that decision.
AJ Brown, Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs, Zay Flowers, like what?
So he has 4 stud wide receivers. Like we already accomplished that. I have two pretty decent ones. Like, I mean, we know his team is loaded at the wide receiver position.
I've taken down a fucking peg or two, Corey. I'm definitely taking Moose in this.
I think Moose probably wins too. I'm not going to lie. I think I'm scared to play guys that have explosive offense. But what I have learned over the years of playing these leagues that I didn't know when I started them is that you get points from every position, not just your wide receivers and your running backs. So anything can happen. And I would take my defense over just about anybody's in the league at this point. So
I don't know if it's pretty close with his. I like his offense better, and I think you guys are equal in defense. So
wow. That's rough. Did you know Rodney Thomas got 100% of snaps at safety?
At free safety? Yes, I did.
Well, all right.
So did Andre Cisco. He's also a free safety, and he definitely overperformed on tackles if you really want to get into it. But
Yeah.
You don't like it when I say bad things about your team.
I just don't think it's based in any like real like thought. Like there's no way you could look at those starting defensive lineups and say that his is better than mine. I just don't. He's got, I mean, Cameron Sample and Will McDonald versus Will Anderson, Daniel Hunter, and Karlaftis. I mean, that's just, there's just no way that you could say his ends are better. I don't think you can say his linebackers are.
Yes, you
And then if
can. After the performance I saw. But okay.
That's close.
No, the numbers say it's not close. He's in the 11s, you're in the 9s. It's okay. You have good linebackers. He has better. Let's move on. He has better safeties than you. He has the luxury of playing 3 corners because they're really good. Like, I don't know. Yes, you beat him at the end. Congratulations. The end is streaky. All your guys scored sacks last week. I hope they score sacks again.
We'll just have to figure this out. Any given Sunday. I appreciate your honesty. Now I know how to build a better team moving forward.
You don't have to build a better team. You have one of the top teams. I'm just saying that his is better.
Yeah, I like his. I mean, it's hard to overcome the fact
But look, they say it's 50-50. And you think it's insane that I think he's better and you think yours is better. That's fine.
Of course, you're going to naturally gravitate the team you built. I mean, it's just, yeah, we don't need to talk about it anymore. I expect a big game out of Jamar Chase, and I expect a big game.
Here's the thing, Corey. This is all you need to know. I wouldn't, if you asked me who I could trade my team with, I would rather trade my team with Moose's than yours.
I would too. Yeah,
that's all I mean. That's all I mean.
I lean naturally doing that because of
I like Joshua Kelly on the bench. That's frisky.
Yeah,
look good.
I mean, but how are you going to start 3 running backs? You know, over the 4 ranked wide receivers.
But it's nice to have an embarrassment of riches on.
I mean, he's got Tony on the bench too.
Yeah,
I think he's making a mistake by not starting him, but
it'll be a fun matchup, man. I hope
maybe
you guys
I can
outscore a lot.
Higgins outscores Chase this week. Maybe it's that. Maybe something surprising happens. Maybe Gibbs goes off.
Who's our upset special, Corey?
I don't know, but this is our last.
You want to take Wayne over Mando?
I don't know.
All right, what do we have? Baltimore got hurt. Oh, he's got Gus Edwards. He's fine. And one and done. One and done is 1-0 and a pretty big dog. We don't have to go through all these. But
I can't.
No, I wanted to pick an upset. We were supposed to pick an upset special.
You know, I didn't prepare. It's my fault. Who's playing Penn? Oh, that's a 100-point favorite. That's just not even. That's a 1%. What about BB and Orphan? BB and B. That's a big game.
I'm still a dog to the lazy. Lazy Bears is gonna whoop my ass. Our division's hard. I'm gonna upset special myself, hopefully, Corey, but I wouldn't bet on it. Here's a good one.
What about BB and Orphan? BBB and Orphan. Ooh, oh, that's Butt Kiss.
Yeah, you're thinking of Mighty Orphans. For whatever reason, it is Orphan team.
Those are both 1-0 teams, right? Or no? Big B.
No, Big Beefy's favored, and he's 0-1.
Yeah, he scored 200 points and lost, I think.
Mm-hmm. I wasn't as prepared for this. What do we got here? There's an upset special.
We're calling the Mighty Orphans.
The Mighty Orphans?
Yeah.
Just because he's our friend. But he has a lot of players that should do better.
He is such an explosive.
Yeah. His team should do way better than it did last week. I didn't see what he scored.
No, he's
all right.
Well, Aiden Hutchinson could have had a huge week
too.
We're calling it. I'm calling it. We're calling the Mighty Orphans to upset Michigan Wolverines.
Yep, I think that's it. I'm fine.
All righty. We will be better next week. I think we're getting this dialed in. Thanks to everybody for the suggestions. We'll be a little bit more prepared, and I will be for sure, and have a better clean insight. But all right, buddy, it's always fun.
We'll get to the questions again a little more next week. Thanks. Keep dumping them in there. Georgia, we're not talking about any more tanking business. We spent 30 minutes on it.
We're out. Peace.
See you guys.
Later.